So those are some things that are some of our challenges is where do we, once the tax and bond issues pass, where do we kind of give back to alleviate some of those issues with to our teachers? I think that's probably one of our bigger ones that we have.
In the state, there's a ballot initiative that's seeking to eliminate tenure
Mm-hmm.
among teachers. Where do you stand on that, and how can it affect this area?
Well, I think what I have said to CMNEA and to CMSTA during our candidate screenings is we really need to ask the question, what was tenure put in place for decades ago? Does it serve that purpose today? And is that the purpose that we need it for today? My answer is, or my gut feeling is that tenure, although people like it, and what teacher necessarily really wouldn't, but there are teachers that will tell me they don't like it, that they would be fine if we did like extension of contracts, like say 3-year contracts, 5-year contracts. There needs to be a real media evaluation process for our teachers. And I think that we have one, except for the fact that if you're tenured and you've been around for a while, you're going to get the same raise as everybody else. And I don't believe that teachers should be paid based on student performance, but I think the pay issue and the tenure issue kind of goes hand in hand sometimes when we're talking with teachers about this. So I think that we just need to do some really good soul searching and asking some really questions that require us to dig a little bit. We do not fire people for no reason in Columbia. I can't speak for other districts because I'm not on a board of any other districts. There is due process within our policies and procedures. I worked for a company for over 20 years, and nobody had tenure, and nobody got fired for the sake of getting fired. And so I think those are some things that if tenure were to be eliminated at the state level, then from a district perspective, we would want to ensure with our teachers and our leaders of what are some policies we want to follow. But you got to be careful when we're talking about personnel issues. You can't create a policy for every single personnel issue because every personnel issue is different. But so those are the questions that I think we need to ask before I would say get rid of it, keep it, tweak it, change it. I just think we just really need to have some of those heart-to-heart conversations with our teacher groups and teachers that aren't maybe necessarily part of a teacher group right now and see what their feelings are and thoughts and then move forward from there.
You're an incumbent seeking a new 3-year term. What would you identify as maybe some of your accomplishments from last term?
Well, when I ran 3 years ago, the community and the district and the administrative staff and teachers, it was not working. It was not a well-oiled machine. We were not working well together. And the main reason why I decided to run was I knew I had the time to do it. I knew I wanted to do it. And I thought I could add something to that. But I wasn't upset at anybody, and I was still very supportive of our school district and thought my kids were getting a great education. So I think over the last 3 years, this board has worked very hard to work together, to be positive, even though we may not always agree, and that's totally fine with me. We have great conversations at the board meetings and at work sessions, and then, individually when we talk about issues. I believe this board, all in all, has a great working relationship with not only Dr. Belcher, but his staff. And I think in order to accomplish things, we all have to kind of get along, not to quote famous Rodney King, but it is important that everybody gets along, even if we don't agree. And that's one thing that I believe I really bring to the table. I've also tried my hardest to just jump in and learn everything I can. And what's interesting, I was telling someone in a screening that right when I was starting to feel really comfortable, like how to get things done and who to go to, I had to file for my next term. So it does take, in my opinion, a good year or two before one has an understanding of, I might jump on the bandwagon for this issue and I may not anticipate the 7 other issues that are created if I am in favor of this. So I try to bring maybe a little bit more of a balanced approach or idea. I also think that because I've never been in public education and I was in the private sector, I bring a different perspective. Just like Jan Meese brings a great perspective because she was an educator. Tom Rose brings a perspective because he's an individual business owner. Michelle Pruitt worked on the district curriculum or the district committee for the math curriculum and works at the university. So she brings so we all bring different perspectives, and that's good. And so those are some of the things I think I've helped accomplish. And certainly, too, from a budgetary standpoint, I do understand, in general, the budget. That took me probably 2 years to really have a good understanding of that. So to carry on with that education and knowledge of what I've already learned, and that the communication of how we work as a board and with administrative and with our public. I try to be available to anybody who wants to meet with me, talk with me, whether it's a reporter, a student, a parent, a community member. I try really hard to be available for those individuals if they want to talk about issues or compliment us.
On a personal level, you call yourself a full-time volunteer. Can you talk about that a little bit and how you came to be in such of a position as you call it?
Well, I think, when I quit work, and I'm someone that I've always been very busy, and I've always been involved in a lot of different things. So I knew that I wanted to do things full-time, not necessarily any one thing full-time, 8 to 5. I knew I didn't really want to get back into an office-type setting again, at least right away. And so when I made the Board of Education, well, prior to making the Board of Education, I immediately got more involved with Paxton Keeley PTA. Both my kids were at Paxton Keeley at the time. Now I have a 7th grader at Smithton. And shamefully, I'm not as involved at Smithton as I should be. So I'm very involved with Paxton Keeley PTA. I help run 2 committees, and then am up there for various other little odds and ends type thing as well. And then I'm a voting member of the Assistance League of Mid-Missouri, where I chair a committee as well. I also serve on the board of the Columbia Youth Basketball Association, and I coached both my children in their respective age divisions for the last 2 years for basketball. So those are the things that I do. Now, I will have to say my weeks ebb and flow throughout the school year. And certainly in the summer, there's times where I get maybe a little bit of downtime because Assistance League slows down a little bit, and we take about a month off, it seems like, for school board issues. But generally speaking, every day during the school year, there is something I'm doing, if not multiple times in a day for those organizations. And I'm actually kind of looking around to see if there's something else I want to add to that. So that's what I do.
Very good. Christine King is running for the Columbia Public Schools School Board. The vote is April 3rd. My thanks to Ms. King for joining us in the studio today. I'm Matt Vito. You're watching KBIA News.